Christine, thanks. Let's go live with Jack Kelly. Today is going to be a really interesting and different LinkedIn Live slash podcast. It's overcoming. What are we talking about? Christine, it's overcoming.
How to adopt like a success mindset, how to build
Yes,
a mindset.
a success mindset. And I think this is really important because when you look at a job search or how to navigate your career or moving up internally within the organization, usually the advice you get is very much rigid of do this step one, do this step two, do this step three. Whereas there's not, in my opinion, there's not enough attention paid to the thought process and the strategy behind navigating your career. Now, when times are good, it's easy. If you turn back the clock, a little after, the pandemic was kind of winding down and all the people who were laid off, companies were starting to hire again. So it was just really frothy. And, these companies were throwing money at people and they were hiring like crazy. And then all of a sudden it stopped. But when it's hot, everything is fine. You don't have to worry about a lot of things. A rising tide lifts all boats. In this environment we're in now, it's different. It's harder, particularly for white collar, mid to senior level professionals, people with college degrees, advanced degrees. There's not a big need for them now. Companies feel, hey, we could have AI, and do we have to pay all this money? Let's just wait it out. We're worried about the economic system. We're worried about a recession. We're worried about Hamas and Israel. Is this going to kind of drag in other countries and become a world war? We're still worried about Ukraine and Russia. Is that going to drag us in? Is China going to go and try to take over Taiwan? Maybe we dragged into that. We have a high inflation. And just recently, Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, was giving a talk basically saying, hey, yeah, we're going to have high interest rates for a long time. So there's a lot of angst, a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And companies, they don't come out and say it because no CEO or executive is going to say, I'm scared. I'm worried about the economy. I'm worried about what's going to happen. No, they don't want to say that. So they just pretend that everything's okay. And I can't blame them because if they panic, everyone will panic. So there's this overhang of kind of worry, anxiety, stress, negativity out there. And companies are reluctant to hire or do things when that happens. And it makes sense. Think about yourself personally. If you feel your job is not secure or you're in between jobs, you're not going to go take that trip to Europe. You're not going to buy that new car. You're not going to buy that new home. You're going to pull back, hunker down, and wait for better times. Within the context of this, for what I want to do today is give some ideas and thoughts and concepts so that you could kind of mentally, emotionally get through this period of time and hopefully even not only survive, but thrive and move forward. And this mindset will help you not only now, but in the future. So let me explain what mindset is this. You just don't want to stumble into whatever you're doing. You want to be really thoughtful of it. So for instance, if you're looking for a new job, it doesn't make sense just to say, hey, I'm looking for a new job. You want to have a goal, right? My goal is to find a new job. My goal is to find a new job with this type of company, making this kind of money, having this kind of growth potential. Okay, that's a goal. That's great. Most people set a goal and that's it. What you need to do is add to that. You need a system in place because if you just have a goal, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, but all right, how are you going to do this? I don't know if many people, maybe I'm a little older, so you might know this, but when I was a kid, you had this game, this football game, electronic football, and you had these little football players, and it was all like electric, and they just go and run around and try to, playing like football on this board. And basically it was such a weird it was such a crappy game that they would just fall down, they knock into each other, they'd bump into each other. So it was like it was just chaos, no plan, nothing, because you couldn't really do that. It was just, I don't know why they made this, but that was back in the day before you had all this cool electronics. Similarly, if you're looking for a job or you're looking to advance within your career or change careers or pivot or reinvent yourself, you need a system in place to do it. You can't just be those little football players just knocking into each other, like knocking into each other, falling down. No, that doesn't work. So you want to get a system. You have to figure out, okay, if I'm looking for a new job, what do I do? Uh, I'm going to get in touch with recruiters. I'm going to send out my resumes. I'm going to network. And then you have to write it down, because if you write down things, it makes it real. If it's in your head, it's ephemeral, it comes and goes. You want to hold yourself to it. So you want to say, every, I'll make this up because everyone's going to be different. Every Monday, I'm going to work on, and fill in the blank. It could be maybe your resume, it could be posting on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform that your career is more associated with. On Tuesday, you're going to get in touch with recruiters. You're going to follow up on resumes you sent out. On Wednesday, you're going to go and practice an elevator pitch. You're going to look at your social media footprint to see if you have to change it, and so on. You want to have a system so that every day you know what you're doing to achieve your goal. Because if you don't have a plan, you're just going to bump around, knock around, nothing's going to happen. So set goals, set a goal, and then focus in, and every day work on it every day. Just like every day you take a shower and you brush your teeth and you get dressed and maybe you work out and you have your schedule, same thing. You want to be rigid and you want to be focused. Even if you're tired or you're burnt out or you don't feel like it, you do it every day, because that gets you closer to getting to that goal. And that mindset is sometimes you have to be very, very strong willed, because it's very easy to get distracted. Let's say you're in between jobs and you're watching Netflix and you get comfortable in the house. It's hard to get out of just that complacency. And the more you get into that complacency, the harder it is to pull yourself out. And by having that system in place to keep you guided is going to help you out. It's going to help you from falling into the abyss if you're feeling depressed and bad, because you're keeping your mind busy, you're keeping focused, and you're making traction. And when you're making traction, you want to celebrate every small victory. Because if you're looking for a job, you're looking to advance within your career, you're looking for a change in a challenging market, it's going to be hard. And you're going to get a lot of rejection and a lot of doors closed in your face. It's not you, it's everybody. This is across the board. And when I say everybody, think about it. I think the last numbers I saw from Layoffs FYI, which follows the tech sector and layoffs, it was something like 240,000 plus tech professionals, smart, well-paid, well-educated, working at Amazon, Apple, were laid off in 2023. And the numbers are probably even higher by now. So this is a systemic problem. It's not just you. We're all going through this challenge. So we have our goals, we have our systems in place, we're having our focus. One of the things also is to try your best to have a positive mindset. Now, some of these things you may roll your eyes and be like, what is this woohoo stuff? I got to tell you, I grew up in this place, Canarsie, Brooklyn, which is a very lower socioeconomic place. And you would never hear anyone talk about empathy or visualization, affirmations, mantras, yoga, meditation. You get beat up. Fast forward, now I realize a lot of these things do make sense and they're helpful. So with having some positive self-talk, what I mean by positive self-talk, most people, most people think about it. How many people do you know when you meet them and you talk to them, they emanate negativity? They they talk, they're angry, they're bitter, they're resentful, they find fault with everybody, they're complaining about everything, right? Whether it's social media, whether it's in person. There's so many people who just have that negativity. And that is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to be positive and think positively. In a way, you could rewire the way you think. If you spend your day looking for problems, if you spend your day ruminating about the past, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. And why didn't my parents help me to do this? And I got cheated by doing. Well, you kind of constantly have your monkey brain going and just constantly thinking of negative thoughts, things, what you did wrong, what you should have done. I should have done this. Why did I do that? You know, and it just accumulates and accumulates. And your mind is really just focused on a never ending loop of negativity, bad stuff, boo hoo hoo. What did I like? Should have done this. I should have done that. And that's where you get all these people. And we've all seen them. No matter what, you have a conversation, they're angry, they're bitter. You don't, you just want to walk away from them because you just don't want to get that. You don't want to just get that. It's like, ugh, get that off of me. So you want to change the way you think. You want to look in the positive. Any little win. So let's say you get that interview. You don't say, and a lot of people do this, well, they're probably not going to call me back for the next one. No, positive. Hey, I got this interview. This is great. I'm really excited. I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to do whatever I can to go and interview again and do better and then keep moving forward. You want to kind of just focus, highlight in your mind how to, being positive, being motivated, knowing that something's going to happen, kind of talking yourself into it. The same way, let's be honest, a lot of people talk themselves into being negative by thinking of all the negative stuff. Just the opposite. You want to think of everything in your life that is positive. Block out whatever negative stuff happened, whatever bad stuff happened, close that door and lock that door because they'll creep in and then it'll kind of defeat you. You want to just be motivated, highly focused, upbeat, positive. When you think and the ideas come through your head, if it's something negative, block it out. Replace it with something positive and start that. And you'll see it makes a difference. It makes a difference how you look at it. It's just like how many times does somebody say something to you and you just want to react, right? You want to react and you want to yell back and you want to give them something back and you want to say something that's going to hurt them. No, don't do that. It's wasting time. Process it instead of immediately getting your blood pressure getting boiling, right? And you just want to you want to just yell at that person, you want to just give them something, you want to give them a zinger. No, 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 no. You want to take a step back and say, let's say even for an interview, maybe there's someone was rude to you in the interview. What happened? You want to say, hey, I don't know what that person is going through. Maybe that person has a sick kid at home. Maybe that person who's interviewing you, their spouse lost their job. There's so many different things that we feel when someone says or does something that comes across negative to us. We feel that, God, that person is such a jerk. But really, you don't know what they're dealing with. So instead, what I would suggest, and this is a big thing, because what happens all the time with interviewing, where you get what comes across, what feels like very rude treatment, shabby treatment, like really bad stuff. I hear this from candidates for years. It's not just recently. Reframe it. Reframe how you look at the situation. Tell yourself, before I react, let me take a few breaths so I don't instinctively go on the attack against that person. Because number one, going attacking that person, how's that going to help? Particularly if that person is a manager looking to hire you and you're just going to attack him or her, it's going to blow up. Take a breath, process it, say to yourself, I don't know what this person's going through. Maybe they had a hard day. Maybe they have some really challenges themselves. So maybe you could say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Interviewer, I was a little taken aback by the comment you made. It seemed, a little unnecessary. Um, Maybe I'm processing wrong, but help me out. Are you okay? Is everything all right with you? And you say that in an honest way, not like a sarcastic way or me being really genuine to see like, hey, I felt kind of attacked. And I don't think I said something. And if I did, please let me know, because maybe if I said something inappropriate or wrong, let me know so I'll know in the future. Because it did feel like this very uncomfortable thing that's going on between us. And then hopefully, more often than not, in this case, the interviewer might say, and I've seen this happen a lot, hey, I'm sorry. It was a really tough day. My kid was sick, and usually we have a friend who drops off my child at school. They couldn't do it, so we're just trying to juggle how to do it, and it was chaos. And my spouse couldn't do it because of this, and we got into an argument. Like, I understand. I understand. This happens all the time, but mostly what happens is people don't take that step back and they get sucked into that argument, and then both sides just go at it. So just to reiterate, when this happens, reframe the conversation politely and genuinely and authentically. Ask, hey, can we talk about this? I feel a little bit maybe attacked, but I'm not judging or anything. Could we talk about, did I say something wrong? Did I? Because maybe you did. So like, you want to be honest. Like, maybe I did say something and I didn't mean it. Can we kind of work through this? And then you'll see the other person will appreciate that you're handling this in a very mature way. And then if they really knew they were being a jerk, most people will think, I am a jerk. Let me just let me try to salvage it, and let's make this better. So you hear where I'm going with this. This is a whole suite of solutions that I'm trying to offer when you're involved in the workplace and workplace situations, so that as opposed to the usual advice you get, this is really very thoughtful ways to navigate and be positive and get the results that you want. Another aspect, and we're going to go run through. There's not that many, so I figure to start out with, give a few different kind of things to figure out to talk about. Another thing is you have to be self-motivated. Unfortunately, in this world, for most people, unless you're like a nepo baby and you have, a parent who is a CEO or an uncle who runs a company, you're on your own. No one wants to tell you this. You're on your own. No one is going to knock on your door and save you and say, hey, Jack, here's this great job. I know you weren't doing anything, you're just watching TV, but I want to come in here and give you this awesome job. That doesn't happen. You have to be your own champion. You have to motivate yourself, whether you feel like it or not. You want to do every day. Every day you wake up, no matter what happened the day before, you say, this is a brand new day. Maybe yesterday sucked. I didn't get that interview I wanted. I didn't get that offer I wanted, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to think today is a complete fresh start. Give you an example. In recruiting, recruiters fail way more than they succeed, because you may have 10 applicants, but one will get the job, perhaps, or maybe not. What happens a lot is then, as a recruiter, maybe you place somebody, but a lot of times you don't. And there could be times where you worked hard, from a personal perspective, I work hard and hard and try to find making all these calls, setting up all these meetings, having all these interviews, helping people through the whole process again. And then all of a sudden, doesn't work out. Someone else gets the offer, spend all that time, no money for it, nothing. And maybe that happens several times in a row. It's easy to say, oh, boo hoo hoo. This sucks. I hate it. This is terrible. What I always do is this is, let's say, pre COVID when it was in an office, get up from my desk, either go to the men's room, put some cold water in my face, or maybe take a walk outside. And then once I step back into the office, in my mind, everything that happened up until now I'm back in the office is over, doesn't exist. It's history. History doesn't exist. It's over. It's done. All you have now is the present moment. And that the present moment, you're starting from scratch, which is great. No baggage, nothing. It's all fresh. And it's whatever you make of it. So you want to have that mindset every day is a fresh new start. No baggage, nothing from the past, no negative, no ruminations about stuff, no recriminations about my parents should have done this or that, the other thing. No, it's a fresh day that you have control over, which leads to another one. You want to kind of understand, and this is an old adage, control, you can't control what you can't control, but you can control what you can control, something of that nature. I'm probably butchering it, but I think you get the sense certain things are out of your control. For instance, you cannot change the economy by yourself. You cannot stop the Hamas and Israel hostilities. You cannot stop the Ukraine-Russian war. So to wring your hands about it and to get so sucked up in it and spend so much energy in it in something you can't control probably doesn't make much sense to spend a whole lot of time on it. Whereas you have control over the way you want to navigate your career. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, you're setting a goal and you have a system in place to reach that goal. So you can control that. You can control what you're doing on a daily basis to make your life better, to get a raise, to get a promotion, to get a bonus, to get a new job, to climb the corporate ladder internally, to reinvent yourself, to go back to school, whatever it is, to say, hey, maybe I want to go now be a blue collar person because that seems to be where some money is at now, where white collar is not so good. You have that control to decide what do I want to do with my fate. Now, you may say, Jack, it's not so easy. And you're right. It's not easy. And that's one thing we have to all understand. That's another thing. Nothing is easy in life. The only thing is easy if you're born to riches. And even then it's hard. You have your own problems. So you want to be motivated. You want to understand what you can control and what you can't. If you can't control it, don't knock your head against the wall. Don't waste all that time. Spend your time more appropriately on what you can control and what you can do. And while you're doing that, you want to be positive, you want to be upbeat, and you want to be motivated. You also want to have time management. You only have so much time in the day. It's so easy. It's so easy to procrastinate, particularly when you have remote work, when you have hybrid work, digital nomads. It's very easy to say, I'm going to kind of just do my laundry for now. And I'm not casting any aspersions on people, working remote, what have you. I'm working remote. I've never worked remote at all until the pandemic. So, but I could see what happens sometimes. It's easy to say, I'm going to do this later. I'm going to do this later. My dad had expression, time, and I'm going to butcher it. So like time, the time expands to fit the work. And I think I'm butchering it, but he kind of meant that if you make it happen, you could end up spending so much time doing something when you don't really have to do it. So you could take a project and hyper focus and get it done in 20 minutes, or you could stretch it out and it takes the whole day to do it because you keep doing a little bit, then you do something else and you don't pay attention. So you want to be very attuned to time management. You want to have, you want to think of it as a race, because a lot of times it's easy, especially with remote or hybrid, where maybe you don't have that, that drive because you don't have the buzz in the office and everything going on and you're seeing your peers. So it's easy to kind of just, let me watch this baseball game. Let's watch, this TV, this Netflix series. So in addition to the focus, you want to be very time efficient. You want to make sure, if you're interviewing, you want to put in the time to research the company, to research the interviewers, to know the job description, and be very thorough and have that. And this goes along with having that system and looking at the interviewers, looking at the company, look at their mission statement. So you want to use that time wisely so that it's going to return a dividend because you're putting in that time. There's another thing that kind of helps too, is something called find your why. There's some guy who I can't recall his name, but you see him on Twitter and TikTok and all sorts of social media. And it's a really interesting thing. What find your why is that you often need a fire to be lit under you to get motivated. It's not easy to get motivated just like that. Say, hey, I'm going to wake up and I'm motivated. You want to find reasons why you're doing what you're doing. For instance, let's say you're starting out, you have a young family, young kids. Your why might be, hey, I grew up in not a great area. I really want to have the best for my kids. I want them to go to better schools than I went to. I want to have them have more opportunities than I did. So I'm going to really do whatever it takes. I'm going to work as hard as I can so that I could provide a better life for them. And that could be the, excuse me, that could be the driver. That could be your why, to say, hey, that's why I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. And that's why I'm going to work really hard at what I do, because I want to be successful enough to give them a life that I didn't have. Now, that's one example for a why, but we all have our others. It could be, maybe you work in the nonprofit sector and your why is, I'm helping out, unrepresented, people who have challenges and problems and whatever it may be. And I feel by doing this, my why is not because I'm helping people. That's great, but I'm getting also inner satisfaction because I feel I'm making a difference by taking care of people who are often overlooked and no one cares about. So the why for everybody could be different. It could be money, it could be meaningful, something, a role, finding a role that's meaningful and offers you fulfillment. But by having that why, it helps you get through the tough times. Because if you don't have a why and you're just doing it, I think most people, this is the problem we have in the workplace, is that you're doing your job, you're getting paid, relatively well. The job's okay, but it's not great and it's not wonderful. And you really know you can't grow fantastically and you don't have a why. So you just kind of plod. You kind of just going through the motions. And that's, I'm not saying it's bad, but this is what ends up happening, because you don't have that extra oomph that to say, to power you through the next level. So I would say, think of all the things in your life, why you want to succeed, why, if you do X, Y, and Z, it's going to make a difference in your life, in your family's life, maybe in your community, maybe with your neighbors, maybe for society as a whole. So by having that kind of thing, that's going to help push through and overcome a lot of the negativity and a lot of the chaos that's out there, because you're going to have that as your driver to succeed and move forward. One of the things, this you might not like hearing, as you try to evolve and grow and be a better person and be more focused and want to achieve greater things, you have to look at your circle of friends. There's something like you are the sum of the 5 people who you're closest with. If you're looking around and the people that you're closest with are really not doing so great, you may love them and like them, but they're negative perhaps. They have really bad habits. They lead you down the wrong road. I'm not saying to excommunicate yourself from them, but you owe it to yourself to surround yourself with people who are uplifting, who are positive, who are motivated, who want to do well, who want to succeed, who are interested in mutual benefiting relationships. If you find out, if you really kind of think about the people that you closely associate and they're not like that, they're going to bring you down to their level. It always works that way. If you are with, it's like, have you ever heard about like in tennis and as in other sports too? If you play with someone who's a couple of, notches or more notches better than you want to play that because it's going to up your game. As opposed to if you're playing with someone who's way beneath you, you're going to kind of come down because you're not going to really take advantage of them. So you want to do something where you could up your game and take it to the next level. Now, in today's society, we had this like loneliness epidemic because coming out of the pandemic, we're all at home. We didn't get out for 2+ years. You've lost that social circle. We've kind of changed the way we live now with Instacart, DoorDash, Netflix, Amazon Prime. It's easy just to stay in your home and not do anything. So you might have a challenge finding a new group of friends who are similarly minded. If you can't find them in person, you could find them online, on podcasts, through books. You want to find other ways how to improve your mindset, how to grow intellectually, how to learn new things, take online courses, maybe go back to school for something. You want to make sure you are continuing to grow because the world we are in now and the world where we're coming to in the future of work is changing fast. We've all seen it with AI. You hear with AI, oh no jobs going to be lost from AI. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs had a study that 300 million jobs are going to be lost with AI. Now, maybe they would be hyperbolic. So even if you cut it in half, it's a lot of jobs. And this is AI. That's just one thing. What about there's so many companies are sending jobs offshore to other countries. There's just the potential for having a hard time getting jobs and moving forward in the future. So you have to really be adaptable to change. You can't just say, oh, AI is just the next tech, no big deal. I'm not going to bother with it. Oh, this is stupid. No, look into it. And I'm not saying AI is a savior, but you you don't want to bury your head in the sand. You want to see what are the trends. And it doesn't mean jumping on the trend. It means researching it, looking into it, seeing how that could help you. I remember I spent, a fair amount of time with the metaverse because for a while when Mark Zuckerberg was putting billions of dollars into it, thinking, oh, maybe that's going to be something. So I felt, let me look into it. Didn't really turn out to be much, but that's okay because it could have. And I developed some knowledge, and it's called also building a skill stack. A skill stack. Spoke with this about Jen on the LinkedIn Live, the recruiter, where she talked about Scott Adams, a podcast guy who trumpet about skill stacks, meaning that instead of just having like one skill, you want to have a layer of multiple different skills so that as the world changes, as the workforce changes, as new technologies, software, platforms, apps come into place, you don't want to be that person who's a Luddite, like, I don't understand this. I don't want to have to learn all this. This is too much for me. Nah, you want to kind of learn as much as you're possible because otherwise you'll be left behind. Now, I'm not saying to frighten you or anything, but it's just realistic. If you ignore it, now, to be fair, it could be like the metaverse, where you say, hey, Jack, what about the metaverse? See, you spent too much time on that. That didn't help, right? Well, yes and no, because I got a taste for what it's like. I put on the goggles, I played around with it, I got a feel for it. So now in my skill stack, I kind of understand what it is. So if somebody talks about it, I could talk intelligently about it. Same thing with AI and other things. You want to keep learning. You want to keep growing because that's critical. Think about the people you grew up with, people you went to everywhere, anywhere from elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and then how many of them are stuck in a time warp? Think about it. They listen to the same music they listened to in high school and college. They watch the same kind of TV shows that they've always watched. They wear the same kind of clothes from the 80s or 90s or whatever. And they just stopped. They stopped growing. They just like, I'm cool with this. I'm cool with like this 90s grunge vibe thing. I'm cool with this 80s things. I'm cool with these 80s dad jeans. That's okay. That's fine if you want to. But if you want to stay ahead of the curve, if you want to stay ahead of the curve and have more opportunities available, you have to confront the fact that things will change. And I think they're going to keep changing and changing faster. And you want to stay up to date with it. And this goes also, these are all intertwined. And this goes back with time management too. So you want to be able to have enough time and not procrastinate so that you can learn a little. Doesn't mean you have to be an expert at everything, but have a little bit of different knowledge. So because you have a bunch of different knowledges and a skill stack, then you're open to more opportunities. More things can happen. When you have a conversation, you're more knowledgeable because you can talk about different things as opposed to most people who have one or two things they know about and that's all they talk about. Wow. So that's a lot. I want to take a little break. Christine, from what I'm saying, anything that I missed out so far, and I need a drink of water.
I think it's important to allow yourself grace. You're
Mhm.
human. Give yourself time to like grieve that job loss and feel sorry for yourself. But then it's important to snap out of it and push forward. I think if you jump into it too soon, you'll either burn out or the habits just won't stick.
Yeah, I
And then,
agree.
mhm.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then I would also say embrace failure. There's something to be learned from each time you failed. And as we talked about yesterday, after failure, it's essential to take a step back, be introspective, perform a self audit, and find ways in which you can improve upon yourself.
I like that.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Mhm.
Um, in terms of if let's say you didn't get that job that you really wanted and you're really bummed about it and you want to have a pity party, so to speak.
Mhm.
When's the fine line between saying, um, you know, can't believe I didn't get that job. It sucks. It's terrible. I can't believe it happened to me again. So you don't start falling down that rabbit hole of just kind of that defeatist mindset. Like, now I don't want to interview again because I'm just going to get hurt again. You know what I mean? Is there a time like where, Chris, you think you would say, okay, I'm going to allot a day just to feel crappy and get it and cry and eat ice cream or whatever you do and get it out of my system. But then the next day I get back into it. What do you think? Is that too harsh or it depends on each person?
I think it depends on each person and you'll know. And it's funny because I feel like I watched something the other day where they said they literally allot time to like go cry. They'll schedule a time to just go cry and allow themselves that time and then they just gather themselves and then move forward. But then I think that's also why it's important to have a good support team around you because then, they might step in and go, "Hey, I think it's time that you like push forward." I think it's critical to have that team around you, and then also know that you don't have to go it alone. I think you can, find a mentor, look to a recruiter or a career coach. I think it's just important to know that you don't have to go it alone. And then also I would say you we're all living in discomfort, so train yourself to become comfortable with what's uncomfortable. How many times within the past few years have we heard that we're living in unprecedented times, but it's how you overcome that fear and let that discomfort fuel you that counts.
I like that. I like what you're talking about. You know, be comfortable with the discomfort because
Mhm.
that's what it is. And that kind of harkens back to what we're talking about, like learning new things. It's not easy to spend time playing around with different AI, platforms or trying to learn some new online courses. And maybe, you're like, hey, maybe I should learn how to code. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. You're not good at it first. But I guess, like you're saying, you have to learn and teach yourself to get comfortable with failing, not doing well, and try to overcome it, right?
Exactly, because there's people who just sit around and wait for their circumstances to change, but waiting, and wishing won't produce results. You need to set a goal and take action.
That's perfect. And I like what you said about building a team because oftentimes it's very lonely looking for a new job, trying to navigate your career, try to do something different. And if you have, whether maybe close, trusted friends, a mentor, a sponsor, a coach, you know, people who could kind of be there for you and root for you. And so you don't feel like I'm just doing it by myself, which is hard, which is right, which is understandably hard, especially like if you're remote or hybrid and there's no one around and you want to have some people who are your cheerleaders, right?
Yeah, and then even just finding a mentor, you won't have to really that much by trial and error because they will have been through it. So then maybe it'll lessen the failures for you as well.
Now, what do you feel about this? Mantras, affirmations, vision boards. Um, we talked about positive self talk. Are you into that? Do you think those work? Are those helpful?
I've personally never done it, but I've
Mhm.
heard for people that it really helps to like visualize and practice seeing yourself um reaching your goal. I do know a lot of successful people just always knew and felt like they were gonna be successful. So it's important that you act upon that and visualize yourself. And I think it's important to even like fake it till you make it. Like,
Mhm.
even if you don't feel that way, tell yourself you feel that way until you do actually feel that way.
And do you run the risk of feeling like an imposter syndrome if you do that, or you kind of you like you train your mind to say no, I'm going to be there. I'm not really there now, but I know I'm going to be there, so I'm going to act like I'm there. I'm where I should be. Right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I've learned that even the most successful people suffer from imposter syndrome, so I think it's natural to have those feelings. I think it's important to tell yourself, I earned this," and then that'll help fight back against feeling like an imposter or that you just moved through the ranks and you don't really deserve it. You've earned it, you've worked hard, and it's important to remind yourself of that, and like you said, to acknowledge, like, your past wins, and I think even it's important when you're setting goals, just set small goals. That way you don't feel overwhelmed by it. And then each of those small goals that you achieve, they pile up and pile up. And then in front of you, you have like a mountain of victories.
I love that because most people, you get a victory, right? You get a little victory here and there, and it's just like, oh, I got a little victory, and it's just like whatever, and it just every time you do it, it just floats away, right? And
Mhm.
then when you look at all the victories, you don't see it. But all the negative, bad stuff, you pile up like a mountain, and you get, like you're saying, Christy, and
Yeah.
then you see that. You see, so
Mhm.
you look to the mountain. So we have to reverse it,
Yeah.
so that you pile up all those little victories, little victories, celebrate each little victory, And I had a cute thing we did. So when I started recruiting, we would come home, we're at the dinner table, And if I did a placement, and this is when kids were really young, and go, hey, I made a placement today. And I would explain what I do, but they're kids, they didn't really know it. They're young.
Mhm.
And we go, and then we had this thing, we go, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. And it was kind of such a cute, adorable thing. And the kids were so into it, like, yeah, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. It's that, and I think for both of them, it was really good because growing up, they had that, were built in that like mentality, like the things I'm talking about. Because at a young age, I was instilling a lot of this in them, and it is so cute to see.
Yeah, it's cute to know that you taught them at a young
Yeah,
age to celebrate
yeah,
the victories. I even know people at the dinner table will go around and say like, name your rose and thorn of the day. So hopefully
yes.
it'd
I've
be introspective, and I
I've
love that.
heard that. I've never done that myself with anybody, but like I've heard that, right? Like your wins or losses, or what did you say?
Mhm.
Thorns and
Yeah, rose and thorn.
yeah, I haven't heard that, but yeah, where you're sharing with people, I imagine with people who you really feel connected with, who are like-minded, so no one's judging, but you
Mhm.
could share honestly and openly your wins and losses and what have you, right?
Yeah,
Before we end the show, can I just mention something that seems like a little oddball thing? But
sure.
when you said about, you know, hey, put aside time for crying.
Mhm.
I can't speak for all men, but I can speak for myself. I can't remember the last time I cried about something. And I don't know, maybe that's something men have to do more or not. I don't know. But I, I don't, I can't speak for other men because you never know really what goes on, what they're doing. But yeah, it's weird. It's like not a thing. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah,
am I much weird, or am I just like weird and just have no feelings?
I took a whole class on men's health and perspective, so it's what you're saying is definitely in line with how a lot of men feel. But I think by having a LinkedIn
Yeah,
Live and in also telling men it's okay to cry, it's okay to grieve a loss of a job. That's your identity for so many years. So I think it's important to talk about these things and bring mental health and mindset to the forefront.
absolutely. And I'm glad you said mental health because that's the key too. I didn't, talk about that. I'm glad you brought it up. Is yeah, it's like really important to just kind of monitor your mental health and emotional well-being, because if you don't have that, you don't have anything. You're not going to be a help to yourself, your family, your friends, your coworkers. So it's something always to watch out for.
Exactly.
All right, cool. So I think we got a lot accomplished. I hope for the people watching it is a little deep, a little different, and I think that's one of the things Christine and I are trying to do with this LinkedIn Live/podcast is to bring up some like functional things. Here's what you do, how you do this, but then also bring to the table stuff that you may not have thought of, looking at it from a different angle, offering this kind of advice that maybe you don't hear often enough or at all. So I hope this is helpful. I hope by watching it makes you feel a little better, gives you some ideas how to live a better life, how to do better and succeed in whatever your endeavors. So hopefully that helped. And as always, in the comments, when Christine posted, the LinkedIn Live, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please share it. If you want some help, if you have suggestions for future topics, let us know. I want this to be very interactive. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And hopefully this helps, and have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Christine. Bye.